Hey, everybody. When you think about music in Seattle in the mid 90s, you think about bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. It was the grunge scene, it was everywhere, and it was everything. But from that, in the mid 90s, came a new sound with a new band, and maybe that's why it stood out. Chris Ballew was center stage when his band, the Presidents of the United States of America, made music that didn't focus on pain, but was playful with songs about fruit and toys, bugs and cats. He helped the presidents become an international name until he was ready to move on to his next genre, children's music. Enter Casper Babypants, his one man band, a Pied Piper of children's music that produced over 300 songs. Today, Chris talks about his musical journey, the influences along the way, like his parents, the musician Beck, and how a steady curiosity led to this amazing career. He's still making music today and sharing stories with us as we sit down with Chris Ballew. Thanks for jumping on. So you gotta take it easy here.
Well, yeah, I'm on a recline on a couch because I've got a little pinched nerve in my back, which is messing up my feet, and so I'm kind of trying to. This is my default sort of position, neutral position. That's what I'm
Gotcha.
looking.
Gotcha. Well,
My
we
feet are up on pillows, and I'm So
yeah. So we won't rock the boat too much here and get you in trouble.
I won't be able to do any interpretive dancing as questions. So don't request it.
We'll see how it goes. Um,
Okay.
it's really fun to talk to you on a number of levels because I graduated college in the mid '90s and was in Seattle a lot. Right when you guys were getting going with Presidents, and then later I take my 5-year-old daughter to see Casper Babypants. A number
Yeah.
of times, including one time at I think like Top Pop Donuts. You were doing something in Belltown and you
Yep.
sign a CD afterwards, and she's excited to meet Casper Babypants, and I'm excited to meet Chris Ballew of the Presidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty
I'm
cool.
both all the time.
Well, what got you into music and as a kid? Because piano was your first thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, from the time I think I started taking piano lessons at 4 years old. My mom kind of recognized that I had a musical ear, as she used to say,
Mhm.
and so she set me up with a kind of pro teacher. I think there was a little rumblings I remember hearing as a child of me being groomed to be a concert pianist. That I had the feel or whatever, the
Mm.
touch. I just didn't have the work ethic, and I didn't have the desire to really get into reading sheet music and interpreting other composers. I wanted to be a composer rather
Mm.
than, interpret. So I kind of knew that from an early age because I was listening to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely
Mhm.
Hearts Club Band by the Beatles, an album that my older brother Paul bought for my parents Christmas 1967. And a few years later, when we moved house in 69, when I was 4 years old, I glommed onto that record and just held on for dear life.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there were other albums in the world or other albums by the Beatles
Yeah.
for years. I just listened to this album. So that really got me into music because I wanted to also create something that made other people feel how I felt when I listened to Sgt. Pepper's, which is that I'm being taken care of and I'm being taken on a trip through all these different styles and feels and it's vivid and technicolor and set off movies in my head and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what got me into it
You
basically.
still remember the way it made you feel, that album?
Oh yeah, I traveled. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I had little psychedelic
Yeah.
experiences with that
Yeah.
record, really. I mean, one of the not to jump ahead too much or maybe jump back and forth, but one of the reasons I focused on 0 to 5-year-olds when I
Uh-huh.
made Casper Baby Pants music was, that they are, especially when they're in the first stage, like 0 to 6 months, they're like little Buddhas,
Uh-huh.
they are completely enlightened. They don't see the world as having names on things, they just see energy and light and color and sound, and they are experiencing enlightenment, basically. And I think that's what I felt as a 4-year-old listening to that record. Is I just dove into it. It enveloped me, you
Yeah.
know?
You were able to maintain that really throughout your career. I mean, you didn't really outgrow, if I don't know if that's the right term, but you know what I mean? You didn't grow out of that. You kind of captured that throughout your career, which led to a lot of what you produced.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I joke around now and say that every time I made a record, it was me trying to make Sergeant Pepper's over again,
Yeah.
but I did love to hold on to that innocence, beginner's mind kind of idea, the wonderment of seeing things fresh. And through the mechanism by which I did that most frequently was anthropomorphizing. So I would like look at a chair and think about the chairs. It's a faithful chair. It sits there. It receives my booty every time I sit in it. Whatever. I might just like think about the internal life of a chair, um, and that's sort of a way of seeing the chair in a new way, right? Like brand new perspective on what a chair is. It's not just the chair in my mind; it's that chair, and it has a life, and it has a history, and it has a personality. So anyway, that was kind of my way of holding on to that little innocence.
That's great. Yeah. And I mean, the music thing, I mean, it's been a part of your life from, like you said, 4 years old. I think at 10, you had your first band, Creepy Stick. Did I read that right?
Well, that actually it was I was 10 and my friend Dave was not Dave from Presidents, but
Uh-huh.
this kid I grew up with, Dave Thiele. He was 6, and we did have a band when I was 10 and he was 6, but we were called David and the Overtones.
Okay.
And I was the Overtones, he was David. He had a Sears clear denim themed drum kit, and they had an upright piano in their basement, so that's where we rehearsed. We only had one song,
Yeah. Hey.
David and the Overtones, bum, 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 David and the Overtones. Yeah, but then that relationship, uh, went on to become, yes, Creepy Stick, and that was, kind of mostly instrumental,
Yeah.
uh, improvisational kind of situation. Dave Thiele, I've known him since he was born. I met him when I was 4, and he was a screaming little baby about that long.
Mm.
And he and I have maintained a musical relationship to this day that is not based in achievement. It's based in presence and improvisation. And we've gone through so many fascinations with different genres,
Mhm.
kind of coincidentally. Like we'll be living on different parts of the country, and I'll call, back in the 90s, I remember calling him being like, have you heard John Coltrane? And
Uh-huh.
he's like, oh my God, I'm listening to him right now. Like, so we've had, that's a magical relationship,
Yeah.
and it's been really nice that it's, survived all these
Yeah.
years and years, decades.
So did you I'm thinking about when you graduate high school, and were you going to be a musician then? I mean, was it always in your plan, and what did your parents think about all that?
My plan was to be a visual artist actually at one point. I went to SUNY Purchase, which is an amazing visual arts school. Um, I just didn't have anything to say, and I was 18.
Mhm. Right.
18 and from the suburbs. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, what am I trying to say? Well, who am I? What's my perspective? I was just too young to know that. But on the side of focusing on art, I was writing songs and making music, and started a band in college, and so music really dominated. I guess I went to art school so that I didn't have to go to music school.
Yeah. Y
wasn't I wasn't really interested in theory. I remember in the early phase of the piano sort of focus when I was little. My mom and the teacher wanted me to get into music theory, and there's something about it just didn't taste right. It
Mhm.
felt like getting the keys to the mysteries, and I didn't want the keys. I wanted to make my own key and figure out how to unlock, harmonic sounds that I had in my head rather than knowing what the logical next chord would be. I don't know. Maybe, it's I don't know if I was right or wrong with resisting that, but it just felt like I I I was going by feel at the
Yeah.
time. So anyway, but my parents were always super encouraging. I'll never forget my mom, especially. I mean, when I can think of all kinds of, she's the one that got me into lessons. She's the one that bought me gear when I had no money,
Mhm.
lent me the money to buy synthesizers and recording equipment when I was in high school and college. Um, my dad was more stoic about it, but there was one instance where I was trying to learn a song on the upright piano. I was probably about 6 or 7, and I kept hitting this wrong note. I was supposed to hit a C seventh chord, and I kept blank, kinda messing it up, and I just got frustrated, and I slammed down the cover on the keys and just went, I'm never gonna get it." And I'm sitting there stewing, and my dad appears in the doorway, and he takes me into his den, and he gets down on one knee, and he's eye to eye with me, and he's like, "You have something very special, and you can't let frustration derail you. You have to go back and try and work on it."
Wow.
And I'm getting emotional talking about it
Yeah.
because he really um, didn't express himself that way very often, and so that just really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Like,
What did that mean to you?
it just meant that if I have a vision that I need to expect to encounter roadblocks and to use my sort of determination and lack of willingness to compromise to work through those toward my goal. And, I use that in these days, especially in working by myself. I'm ruthless with myself as far as,
Mhm.
well, that song's pretty good, but the theme is wrong or that verse needs to be rewritten. I don't shy away from all those barriers between me and hearing the piece I'm working on and going, yes, this is it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Ha
guess I have him to thank for that. It's funny sitting here talking about it. I never really connected those,
yeah.
my impulse to work through issues with that moment with my
And
dad.
how old were you in that when that happened?
I think I was about 6 or 7.
Oh, wow.
It was when I finally started to, even though I was doing lessons, and I took lessons till I was 10, but I had started to make up or work on music by ear.
Hmm.
And in fact, the song that I was playing, I remember it now. It was the Munsters theme from the TV show The
Yeah,
Munsters.
yeah.
I don't know if anyone, you know what that is?
I don't know
Okay.
remember the theme. I remember the show. Yeah.
It
I'd have
was
to
like
hear
this.
it.
It was dum 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 ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, and I think that ba-dum is what I was
Mhm.
messing up.
Mhm. That's
So,
great.
anyway, yeah, that was my first song I learned by ear.
So you're in college. Was that when you were in Boston? Is that where that, visual arts school was? Or how'd you end up in
No,
Boston?
I went to school at SUNY Purchase, State University of New York at
Okay.
Purchase. So it's in White Plains,
Hmm.
New York. So I got to experience New York City but the school was in the countryside up in Westchester, so it was beautiful. At the end of that experience of going to school, there was a visiting artist, and me and my bandmates took this class with this visiting artist from Boston. And at the end of the year, he said, "Well, if anybody's graduating and they want a job, I need assistance to do my model building for these installations and sculptures that he was doing." And so me and the drummer in my band went, "Well, yes, we'll go," because we had no plan for what to
Yeah.
do with
Yeah.
life. So we just followed this artist to Boston and worked for him for a year and a half or so. That was a great experience, traveling all over the world, setting up his installations and learning how to work as a unit beyond just the band. But like he really instilled this idea, like that entropy needs to be nurtured and maintained to stay up to keep things flowing. And
Mhm.
if one of you fails, you all fail was his big thing too. You all have to look out for each other and keep the entropy up. And those two things I applied to being in bands later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, good
that was it.
lessons. And
Yeah.
so what was it like for you? Because at that point you started doing, like, music on the street, right? You were busking and you had I think you had a partner that you were on the streets doing music with. What was that? like for you? And were you doing it for money? Were you doing it for experience? What was it like for you at that time in your life?
Yeah, well, it was the drummer who he and I went to Boston together. And then we drove across country the summer after our senior year before we went to Boston to live. And we would busk on the streets of whatever city we were in. The
Mhm.
trouble was had no idea where those streets were. We'd pull into town and just be like, so we kind of gave up on that idea. But
Yeah,
when we got to Boston, we got a regular thing going where we'd play in the subway and on the street in Harvard Square. And it was mostly to hone our craft. There was, the bonus of some money, which we'd spend on beer and then it would be and dinner, and then it
yeah,
would be gone.
yeah, sure.
I did know people who survived by busking, but boy, they got beat up. Their carpal tunnel from playing guitar in the cold, and
Yeah,
I could kind of see that that was a little rough. So I used to paint houses in Boston to make money instead of full time playing. But yeah, it was really really instructional as far as what would it take to stop a person who's on their way home or to work or on their way somewhere. What would it take to literally hook them,
yeah,
um, and hold their attention for a song or two? And we were trying to do originals. We weren't standing there doing covers. So yeah, it was great, and I also used for years and years as a point of reference. Like, I'd go in my mind back to the subway platform and think, okay, if I were playing this there, would this, have that ability to grab somebody?
yeah.
So that was really a great experience.
And then how did you end up back in Seattle? You just decided to move back and do the Seattle music scene?
Yeah, I was in Boston for many years. I had some good times and kind of real dark times. I had a sort of black cloud hanging over me the entire time I was in Boston for some reason. I know for some personal reasons,
Yeah,
relationship stuff and
yeah,
people stuff. But yeah, I'd been there for, I don't know, that part of time is so blurry for me, but I'd been back and forth, like painting houses in the summer, then going to Seattle to hang out with friends and see Dave Thiele and live with my parents and then back again and back. So it's all mushy, messy. I can't remember exactly, but one of those times I was in Boston and I was not living very healthy lifestyle. I was eating all the wrong things. I kind of knew it, and I had eczema. I was just a mess.
uh-huh,
I woke up one morning in the dead of winter and went, "What am I doing? I'm from Seattle. I need to go home." And yeah, I had just, ingested Nevermind by Nirvana like 1,000 times
sure. Yeah,
on full volume.
yeah,
And I was like, I want to go where that's happening. But mostly it was not the music thing. It was just home. I just wanted I wanted to walk around on the soil where I would dig my roots, being on the East Coast was really great and really instructional, but I just couldn't imagine putting down roots there. So I just wanted to go where I had the possibility of establishing something bigger.
yeah,
So in my life, more than even music.
yeah.
Yeah. I
And
just woke up one morning and went, I got to go. And my friend Carolyn had a Volkswagen van that she was selling. So I drove across country in January in a van with no heat. So I ended up going all the way down south
yeah,
to Florida and
the
then
long
across
way. Oh, the long way. Oh, across
a super
Texas
long
and
way.
yeah. Well, then now there was a stint in LA for you before you put those roots in Seattle. Do I have that right? There was at some point
Yeah,
you were playing with on in Beck's band.
right. Yeah, I was living in Seattle. The Presidents had started, but
Okay.
we were just in our infancy. I think we'd played 1 or 2 gigs with Jason or maybe a handful, and we'd made a demo tape with Jason at a local studio. And then, actually a busker from the Boston days, Mary Lou Lord,
Mm,
she did it full time professionally. She was a friend from that scene in Boston, and she called me up and said, "I have this guy that I'm becoming aware of named Beck, and he needs to put a band together. Um, and I thought of you." So she's like, "You need to throw your hat in the ring and play with this guy." And of course, I didn't know who Beck was. I mean, it's like
yeah.
getting a call and saying, "Hey, this guy, Tommy Shalami is
Yeah.
over here. He's amazing. Tommy Shalami's going to
Yeah.
be huge. And so I actually had the opportunity to join a friend's band playing bass or pursue the Beck thing. And I was kind of like, I don't know which one I should do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up meeting him. It's a long, long story, but I met him in Seattle when he did a few gigs, solo acoustic gigs, and we hit it off. And yeah, he called me up and a few days later and invited me to go on tour. And my life as a actual professional musician began.
Yeah.
So, and that was a really amazing experience. I got to live with him because I was the only band member not from LA, and
Yeah.
he graciously let me live with him, and we 4-tracked together and drove around LA talking about ideas about what music should and shouldn't be and for ourselves. And anyway, just really instructional. In fact, it was like standing next to a famed volcano or tornado,
Mhm.
not volcano. And standing there and watching like, okay, this friend of mine is caught up in this whole thing. And then I quit and went back to the Presidents in Seattle and got my own famed
Yeah.
volcano.
Yeah.
It was kind of like school, like fame school.
Yeah, I mean, because you were able to watch it, because that right when he was taking off, you were saying is
Yeah,
right? He was blowing up right then, and
right then.
yeah, and I think I don't know his music that well, but I think of him as a very creative artist, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
of you that same way. So you were did he influence your creativity or maybe how you think about music and putting songs together?
Eventually, yes, I understood what he was doing, but in the moment, in the time I was with him, he was his creativity shone so bright that I was blinded. I
Mm,
I couldn't function as long as as a creative person as long as I was supporting him. It
yeah.
was it was interesting, I figured out later what he was doing is he was kind of drawing from old traditions in music and then sprinkling them with surreality lyrically and sort of updating them through like word collage. So it had the music, a lot of it had the sort of vibe or roots of something old and timeless,
Mhm.
but then he was adding this surreal sheen to it of his own perspective. And then later with Casper Babypants, once I kind of dawned on me, oh, I see what Beck was doing, then I dug into the old history of folk music and children's music and nursery rhymes and then kind of use those foundations to pepper it with my own perspective musically and lyrically. And so I did what he did eventually, which is why I have 19 Casper Baby Pants records. Because
Yeah,
once you kind of understand the energy of that kind of
yeah.
dynamic with composition, then it's just like whoa. And that's the way he was. He was just like song, 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 song. So yeah, it was instructional, but not immediately. So
Yeah, and you mentioned you had already had the presidents had just gotten going in Seattle, but you were doing that. Do you think if the presidents hadn't already had a little bit of momentum, you would have stuck with the Beck thing and been in his band and gone down that route?
yeah, I might have. I think the real deterrent to making a career out of being a side guy for Beck was that this was his first experience fronting a band and running a band. He was just a little solo guy with a guitar and a leaf blower
Mhm.
before. He used to dump leaves on stage and blow leaves, which is great. Um, and one of the reasons that he signed with Geffen was because Sonic Youth was on Geffen, and he
Mm,
really loved Sonic Youth. So at that point, he was not only into sort of pop music or bluesy country kind of vibe, but he was also into like noisy, really aggressive, like Japanese noise bands and
mm,
synthesizers going crazy. And so the show that we were doing, he was not fond of the Loser song. So the show that we were doing was to sort of deconstruct this happy-go-lucky, spokesmodel for a slacker generation kind of label that he was being given,
mm.
and be something kind of heavy and kind of shatter that illusion. So it just wasn't. I wasn't into it.
Yeah,
I want to make people happy and
yeah,
elevate, dance and sing and
yeah,
put on a show and all that. And At one point, he came to me and he's like, "I need you to be more demonic on stage." I was like, "I gotta go."
You had your, like, yellow shirt on at that point or
Yeah.
something, you know?
Well, yeah, I had crazy clothes at the time. I had gold pants and gold boots and these,
Sure.
like, slick sorta disco shirts, and I had a cowboy hat, and I was like, "Hey, everybody, let's dress up." And
Yeah.
Beck was like, "No, I'm gonna wear corduroy and an old gray shirt," you know? But one night, we opened up for, Evel Knievel in New York, and I convinced the band, "Let's make tonight just like a circus. Everybody wear the weirdest shit you can get." So we had one night of that, and then, of course, Beck embraced that kind of showmanship later in his
Mhm.
career, and I remember seeing it and thinking, "Well, if that was the band I was in, I might not have quit," you know?
Right.
Well, anyway, that it was way more his sort of, deconstructing the loser, mythology that turned me off.
Yeah. So Presidents back in Seattle starts taking off, and I think, you know, I don't think we can skip over the fact that Seattle at that time, of course, was such a different genre of music, you know, with Nirvana, as you said, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, I mean, Mad Season, and all this dark, you know, heavier stuff. And here comes Presidents singing about, you know, fruit and bugs and toys and you know, it was just the complete opposite, but it resonated. And did you find any pushback with your style of music at that time, or did people just accept it because it was refreshing to them?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I was with Beck on tour when Kurt Cobain died, and
Right.
that's when everything felt like a bottleneck. Like there's before that and after that.
Mm.
And I think when I finally made it back to Seattle and we revved up the Presidents again, people were ready for some lightness. I felt ready. I loved a lot of those bands,
Uh-huh.
especially Nirvana. I mean,
Uh-huh.
Nirvana had the heaviness, but if you take a lot of those songs, they're so lyrically and melodically gorgeous.
Uh-huh.
There's beauty in those
Yeah.
songs, which I love. It's not just a dark curtain.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think every club was full every night because everybody was there waiting. Like, what's next? And we happened to walk into that void left by Kurt's passing and
Mm.
sort of the sensation that we're on sort of the tail end of something, and also the expectations of the crowd to be like, okay, we're ready to pour our love into the next thing, and we were there.
Yeah.
And Jason, who booked one of the clubs in Seattle, decided, you know what, let's just see how many shows we can do, and we just played 3-4 times a week, and it built momentum that way too because we were just available.
So when you
So yeah.
get that first leads to your first real record deal, right? Which I think was Columbia Records. Is that the first real deal, right? So what did it feel like to get that? And did you feel like pressure? Did you feel any like imposter syndrome, or did you feel like now it's our time to step up? How did you take it at that time?
Everything. It was incredibly validating and confirming and also terrifying and disruptive. Like
Yeah.
it was like being given the stamp of approval because at that time there were bottlenecks you had to get through, like radio and MTV and major label. You had to have the triple crown
Yeah.
to make it work. And so getting love from those gatekeepers was a thrill. But then I used to use this metaphor, and I still kind of think about it, where I always thought of fame as this like metaphorical velvet rope that gets removed, and there's a doorway, and you go through the doorway, and you're in this room with all the other famous people,
Right.
and everything's great, and you've arrived, you're done. But immediately after, and that was my sort of new mental idea of it from way before I even had the option of saying yes or no to it. But then once we signed and I got that velvet rope removed and I got into that room, I went through that door, I realized, oh my God, at the other end of the room, there's another velvet rope and
Yeah.
another door. I knew that it was velvet ropes and doors forever. And I was like, I don't want to just keep reproving myself or, you know, turn my creativity into a commodity that can be bought and sold without considering its purpose, its true purpose or whatever, it just felt cheap.
Mhm.
So I kinda wanted to quit right away. I kinda wanted to pull a Sex Pistols and just freeze us in
Mhm.
perfect, in our perfect form, and then move on and just do something else, but, the other thing I always say is, like, when you're riding a pony that's crapping gold bricks, you hold on for dear life and try to collect as many bricks as you can.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I was like, "Well, this is a once in a lifetime experience. Let's ride this out and see," but it never felt like a suit that fit me, It
yeah,
just felt I want to evolve, the whole time I had this voice going like, "Congratulations, but you're not there yet.
yeah,
Keep going," and which eventually led me to Casper Babypants
yeah,
after 15 years of sonic kind of hunting and pecking on the outside of the president's operation. I finally found what I was looking for.
yeah.
Yeah.
On just on the president's, I guess, was the pressure both external and internal, would you say? I mean, was it the record company knocking at the door like, "Hey guys, when's the next hit coming? But
Yeah.
internally, you're also putting pressure on yourself? Which one was the greater pressure, I guess?
There was pressure from the label. They did pressure us rather into putting out our second record quickly.
Uh,
And our manager, Stacy, gets our eternal respect for being the voice at the time who said, "Nope, take 6 months off, reconnect with your families, have a barbecue, smoke a bowl,
yeah,
relax." And we did not. We got, I think, our internal insecurity and internal pressure that we put on ourselves made us side with the label and make a record too fast when we were tired. So that was a very real moment of like, both external and internal pressure kind of clouding our judgment. Yeah, I guess I felt pressure to deliver, like, to be as great as we could be live, because
uh-huh,
live was really our, you know, natural habitat.
uh-huh,
When it came to making records, we were always like, "Well, are we just trying to represent what we did live? Is this our opportunity to put piano and strings on, or what are we trying to do? Overproduce, underproduce?" And I always wish that we had, hooked up with a producer of some sort that could have seen what we were doing and guided us, but that never happened. So there was pressure inside ourselves to make the music uplifting and light when in fact we felt tired and exhausted and overwhelmed and lonely. So that was, a case of internal pressure creating friction that didn't make the work good.
yeah,
I mean, it's fine. I listen to that second record now and I'm kind of like, oh, this is great. What am
yeah,
I talking
yeah.
about? This is amazing.
But at the time you felt some of that. Is that what you would do differently then, as you look back at that part of your career? Would you have taken a little bit more time there? Would you have, like, I don't know, believed in yourself a little bit more that you've got time to develop that next album for
Yeah,
yourself?
absolutely. Because the first album was like the cream of the crop of songs that I've been
Mm,
toying with for a all
right.
the way from 15 years ago in Boston playing on the street, or how no, it wasn't 15 years ago, it was, well, if we got signed in '94, it was like 4 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, it seems like longer,
Yeah,
but, anyway, yeah, I think that if we had taken a break and if we had stuck with Conrad Uno, who produced our first record, and just kept working with him, kept it in his basement, simple, small, homemade. Instead, we went to the biggest studio in Seattle,
yeah,
biggest live rooms, and it just didn't fit our dinky aspiration or
yeah,
sonic aspirations. I think what really made the band work was we were dorks who were trying to rock.
yeah.
And I think the crowd was empathetic, like, "Look at those poor dorks trying to rock. Go, little dorks, go." And then when we got into a real studio and we got in front of, 10, 20, 30,000 people in festival settings, we had to actually rock.
Uh-huh.
We couldn't appear to rock or get their empathy. It's like, we gotta deliver to the guy in the back of this German racetrack,
Yeah,
and that changed everything, so
yeah. Yeah. Well, it was authentic, you know, and I think people resonated with that. I mean, that was definitely a big part of it. And you alluded to the next part of your career, Casper Babypants. And I think we think of both of those careers for you, Chris, but was there time in between where you weren't, either one of those things, or how quickly did you go from one to the other? Because I'm familiar with both. I've
Mm,
experienced both, but in the timeline, I can't really pin down when
yeah.
one ended and the other started.
Yeah, it was kind of a crossfade,
Mm,
actually. So we were together from 94 to 98, and then we broke up for 5 years, but during that time, we made a record as the Presidents, and we started a band with Sir Mix-a-Lot and made a record and toured.
mhm,
So it's kinda not like we broke up, but that was also during the time when I was looking for something else on the side and Casper hadn't existed yet, but so I think it was around so Casper started in 2008, so we got back together in early 2003. We did New Year's Eve 2002 as our reunion gig, so
mhm,
very early 2003. It was like midnight. Um, and Dave peeled off around 2004, 5, and Andrew joined. And it was during that time we made a record called These Are the Good Times People in 2008, and that's right when Casper started. So the Presidents would go on for another, we went to 2015. So it's kind of like 2008 to 2015, I was doing the Presidents and Casper at the same
yeah,
time
okay,
and playing tons of Casper shows and
yes,
doing President shows. And I was and making records with both. it was it was nuts. And then eventually I gave Andrew and Jason a 3-year warning. I said, in 3 years, I'm going to quit the band. And sure enough, I did. So that was traumatic. It was really hard to assert myself and say, I need to move on and I want to pursue this kids music thing 100% and get rid of the presidents. It was I'm a people pleaser.
mhm,
So and that's my greatest superpower and it's also my biggest kryptonite,
yeah,
like
yeah, I
it's a
know.
superpower when it comes to writing songs, it's kryptonite when it comes to me expressing what I want in a group setting or even with in a relationship. So I've come to understand it now, but at the time it was really tough. It was, yeah, it was a long belabored crossfade.
And what did you like about the kids' music, writing it, performing it? What was it, that hooked you?
Oh, so many things. I mean, getting to coexist with little kids, just be in their presence and listen to the way they talk and hang out and dance, and
Yeah.
they're like the weirdest punk rockers. I used to also call them I call them the greatest drunks ever, at any show, they're just so random and
Oh.
bizarre. So just getting to be in that universe is fantastic. Sonically, it was like this wonderful break from walls of guitars and big drum kits and doing everything real small and
Mhm,
minimal. It's super thrilling. Like how little can I use to get this song across? I used to have what I call a mute party. I actually learned about it from Nancy Wilson from Heart.
mhm.
She's like, put everything on at the beginning, throw the kitchen sink at the recording, and then start having a mute party once you're done, like taking things out, and then you'll discover the song. And the other factor was coolness. Like when I finally realized that kids music was the thing, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm free of the culture of cool determining my value. Um, I will never be cool doing this, and I will never have a hit. I don't have to have a hit record. This is just like a workmanlike situation where I'm providing a service. And that's the other aspect that I loved is it's being in service to people. I really wanted to make music that took care of the parents' aesthetics,
Yes.
that didn't just pay lip service to that, but that really considered the parents' experience and how the family could come together to sing the same songs and love the same songs. And I love hearing from parents who are like, I dropped the kids off at school and then listened to Casper all day long.
Yes. I did
You
that.
know?
I did that
Yeah.
too. I was right there. I was right there when you were doing all that first with both of my daughters. In fact, my
Mhm.
oldest now is in college. I told her we were having this conversation. She's like, I remember seeing Casper Baby Pants, you know? I mean, we were
Right.
right there. And it was, I could say for the parents, like, to me, it was cool. I mean, I thought it was cool kids music, and I enjoyed it for
Yeah, I
sure.
guess I guess you could call it cool. I guess what I'm trying to say is trendy,
Yeah, yeah,
like
mainstream.
yeah, the next big thing or
Yeah,
whatever that the experience with the presidents, like you get stamped next big thing. Well, there's only one way to go from that is to
right.
be a progressively smaller thing.
Right, right.
So, yeah, so the in-service part felt really good too, like, actually beyond "look at me," beyond self-promotion, it was really family orient
Yeah.
like, gift for the family. So that was something too that I lost track of with the band. So that was yeah, all
Did you
those factors.
did you having your own kids coincide with this, transition?
Yeah. Well, in '97, my son was born, and that's right when I finally said, "Okay, I wanna quit the band and not do this anymore. I wanna be around for my son
Uh-huh.
and, watch him grow and have a normal life." But also, my then wife, Mary Lynn, started working, with PEPS, Program for
Yeah,
Early Parent
that's how we
Support.
found it. I think that's how we found, Casper Babypants.
Yeah. So I made a record in 2000 what was that? It was it was like 2002 or 3 or 4.
Uh-huh,
I made an album of nursery rhymes, very simple, for peps
uh-huh,
to give to parents, called Sing with a Child, and I remember at the time feeling super relaxed making it, like, "Oh, yeah, this is nice."
mhm.
But then going right back to, like, the loud, kind of hipster, weird music I was trying to make as I searched for that other thing I was supposed to be doing. It was right there in my studio for a couple weeks while I made that record, but I didn't recognize it. It really wasn't until I met Kate, my second wife, and saw her artwork that I went, "Oh, it's kids music. This is what I wanna do because I wanna make music that sounds like it came from the world that she's created with her art." Um, so yeah, so Marilyn was on the board of Peps, and then the very first time I ever played sort of as Casper was at a Peps group that my wife Mary Lynn was facilitating, and
Uh-huh.
I walked in with a guitar and played a few "Run Baby Run" being the very
Yeah.
first Casper song, which actually Mary Lynn wrote the initial "Run Baby Run" thing to keep Augie happy in the car, and he would be crying, and she'd be like, "Run, baby, run," and he'd stop crying, and so that became the, like, tent pole song in my, in my arsenal of Casper
Yeah,
songs. So anyway, yeah, I joke that I needed 2 wives to get it right. I needed Mary Lynn to show me the stress reduction and, information for parents and quality music for parents and gathering together and sharing fears and anxieties. And then Kate showed me the aesthetic and
yeah,
how to actually make it happen. So
yeah,
Mary Lynn and Kate, love
yeah.
you.
Well, and it was Kate's artwork is that all the covers of, the Casper Babypants albums?
Yep,
Yeah,
every single one.
yeah.
I love doing an arc of music where there's like a consistent vibe to the whole thing. So that's yeah, I just settled in and used the same font and everything for every album.
Well, you did a lot of songs too. I mean, I think over 300, I think,
Yeah, I think it's either 352 or 62. I keep getting it
yeah,
wrong.
I have it down here somewhere, but it's well over 300. So, what do you have any rules around writing for yourself? And maybe rules is too strong of a word, but when you write that many songs and maybe you're writing about the chair or the pet or something like that, is
Yeah.
there a structure you're following, or are you just letting your creativity flow? And how are you getting it from mind to paper?
A lot of different ways. A lot of it is just having my radar open for when I or other people say something poetic or, funny or like alliteration turns me on. Um, so I'm always like, my radar's always out as I listen to podcasts or watch movies or just interact with my friends. So that's a big way. The other is like sometimes it's slow. Like one time I was taking a walk near our house here and it was summer and I saw a slug making its way slowly across a dusty road, like a lot of dust.
Mm.
So this moist little slug is working its way across this dusty road. And I was just like, it started out as all we are as slugs in the dust. Just dust in the wind.
Sure.
That's not but I swear it took 3 or 4 years for that song to find a shell, if you will, like,
Mhm.
a groove, a rhythm, a melody that made sense. And I wrote another song about tugboats that go by out here by our house called
Mhm.
Pushy the Tug. and that also took 3 or 4 years. So they take anywhere from 3 or 4 years to the song 999 on my second album. I was in my studio, I was working, I was thirsty, I went inside, I opened the refrigerator, the song fell into my head, fully formed. I closed the refrigerator, went back to the studio, and in 5 minutes recorded the version you hear on the record, and then went back in and got some water.
Wow.
Uh, so it's anywhere from falling from heaven
Yeah.
to years and years of patient, waiting.
Yeah. You've done a
Yeah.
lot of collaborating too. I think that's what's interesting about your career. One, the amount of bands or band names you've had. So I'd like to understand like this constant changing of names, and that's probably just part of your creative arc. But also, you've been very open, it feels like, to collaborating with, like you mentioned Sir Mix a lot, but all different kinds of people in music. And does that just keep those, creative juices flowing, I guess?
Yeah, I guess you know, at in the past, I have really thrived on collaboration. I ended up collaborating with one of Mix's proteges, Mike Singleton, known as Out of Sight,
Uh,
and we had a band called the Feelings Hijackers, and did shows and stuff. And so there was that. There's Beck, there's Sir Mix-a-Lot, yeah. And then with the Casper albums, I had lots of guest singers coming in, and I co-wrote with my brother and co-wrote with some other people. At one point, I was collecting grunge stars on Casper albums. I got Stone Gossard, I got Chris Novoselic, I
that's
got Steve Turner from Mudhoney. I was trying to collect all the grungies.
all the Seattle
Didn't get
guys.
Eddie Vedder. I wish I'd gotten Eddie on there, but that never came together.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it seems like something he would do now. I don't know about then, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I had an amazing. He's such a cosmic dude. Like every time we interact, it's
yeah,
like magic. I could tell you half a dozen weird magic Eddie Vedder stories.
yeah.
But anyway, what's interesting is now, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but now I'm doing this solo music for
Mhm,
grown-ups, really for grown-ups to listen to on headphones
uh-huh,
and to fall asleep to. It's this fuzzy kind of trancy. I call it pop cosmic. It's like pop songwriting, but it's also psychedelic.
mm,
Um, and I am super not interested in collaborating. Like,
mm,
I really want this music to come from a single brain, a single source. A lot of it is thematically about being a human, inhabiting a body, about death, birth, consciousness, um, fear, joy, all these like human things. And for some reason, it doesn't feel like I want to collaborate.
yeah,
It feels more right now like if I were a painter and somebody walked by my painting studio and said, "Oh, could I get a brush? Could I paint on that?"
right.
I'd be like, "No, that's crazy. What are you
Yeah,
doing?"
yeah, I
It's
get
kind of
that.
because I'm writing so I'm trying, once again, like I did with Casper, trying to entertain the parents and the kids. I'm trying to ride this really fine line of, aesthetic that I'll know it when I hear it, but I need to have time to let things, simmer for a long time
Mhm,
alone, like anyway, so the collaboration thing may come back, but for right now, I'm actually turning down
yeah.
collaborations.
Is this the, music where you're bringing in a lot of synthesizers? Because I know
Yeah.
you've been into that, like, since you were a little kid, right? So what is it about that resonates with you?
I am not sure, but when I was a teenager, I wrote a ton of songs with drum machines and synthesizers and slashy guitars, and I was really into Wall of Voodoo back in the day, and Oingo Boingo. These was
Mhm,
like surreal kind of bands. And what's fun is now I am listening to recordings I did back in my teens when I only had 2 boom boxes and I would go back and forth between them.
yeah.
They sound terrible, and I have a terrible fake English accent. It's just super embarrassing. Ugh. But but I listen to them and I'm like, "Well, something in there is good." It's like there's a little sliver of DNA that now that I'm writing these kind of songs from the perspective of like, big ideas, I'm like, "Oh, I see what I was trying to do there." And I've
Mhm,
actually grafted a little bit of sound and groove from those old recordings and collaborated with my old self and finished these songs that had the same intentions that I have now, but were just suffering from terrible execution. So that's been very satisfying because I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't crazy. I was just not very technically proficient.
Yeah. Yeah, you've used it now. Was there ever a point where you didn't feel creative or you weren't, writer's block, if you will, or you just felt like you weren't creating something, or have you always been
Yes.
able to crank it out?
No, absolutely. I had one for a couple of years around 1991-ish, 92 maybe. Couldn't write a single song.
Uh,
I wrote one song, actually, a song called Monkey River that I endlessly re-recorded, and actually I made an album out of all the versions of Monkey River. There were like 15. Um, because I only only had
you had
one
one
song to
song?
work. I just kept working on it. But I would do weird stuff like, take a coat hanger and hang it by thread and put a mic on it and hit it and then make a tape loop. And I was doing all this musique concrète,
Yeah.
as they say, like noisy, like Revolution 9 by the Beatles was sort of a template for what I was still trying to be the Beatles.
Yeah, there it
But I was
is.
trying a noise collage instead of a pop songwriter. So that happened in the 90s, and I just let it happen.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's fine. I didn't stress. And then during the pandemic, the first really intense part, I put away my studio and said, I'm not going to do anything goal oriented. I'm just going to play in the moment. And that led to this new music I'm doing
Mm,
now, as far as the palette goes and stuff, and the sort of intention of being, still and contemplating reality. So that was chosen. So yeah, but I
yeah.
really do believe that in smaller ways, like right now, I'm really not working in my studio that much. I think sometimes you got to let the field go fallow in order to harvest the next crop. So I let it go.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you look at this as, two different careers, or is it one arc of a career between
Mm.
the presidents and Casper Babypants?
I can see it both ways. Definitely, I see a life arc that I'm on, and I like to think about like because I'm going to live to be 100.
Okay.
Excuse me, as I choke. My plan is to live to be 100.
Yeah.
So I think about where I am in the arc of that. Like I'm like right there, right? Or I think of it sometimes when I'm doing deep breathing. I'm like, I like to pretend like each breath is a life. Like you're
Mm,
born and then you die. So I'm definitely on the exhale part of the
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
chart,
Yeah.
but so I have that sort of perspective, but then I definitely see smaller arcs inside that, like Presidents and Casper and
Mm,
solo stuff and all these little micro
mm,
arcs. And I'm really not afraid to let things go, let things, you know, be done.
yeah.
Every time I post something about the presidents on Instagram, I get a lot of stuff like, "Get back together, please tour one more time. Come on, do it, do it, do it." And I have zero desire to do it. Well, for one thing, if I get a little nostalgic, I go on YouTube and I watch us live from the back in the
Sure.
day.
Yeah.
There's no way I could do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's so physical.
A lot
Like
of energy.
Jason has like rotator cuff and shoulder issues, and we're all just
Pinched
like,
nerves. Yeah.
yeah,
You're all
yeah.
messed up.
And my attitude is if we couldn't do it like it was, I want to, again, it's my long-term way of being that, of indulging that idea of freezing us like the Sex Pistols did with their first record, like, "Zzz, there we
Yeah.
are."
Yeah.
I don't want to, I already thawed us for too long. Now I just want to keep it frozen.
What did your parents think at the let's talk about when presidents were peaking. I mean, I know you guys were invited to go on Saturday Night Live. You couldn't do it because it was, I think that the night you were getting married, but that's probably the peak. And what was going on in your parents' eyes, and how did they look at this shot of fame for you?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's funny as I become the age they were older when they had me. They were
Mm,
in their mid 40s. So by the time I hit it in my 30s, like early 30s, they were in their
mhm,
70s. And, we didn't talk. I didn't really ask them how they felt about what was happening with me. I mean, they were just super proud. and especially my mom. I mean, my God, my mom was at every show. And, again, she's in her 70s at this point, and she's right there in the pit,
Yeah.
just jumping because this was when MTV was a big deal, and audiences would watch MTV partially to understand how they should behave as an audience, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, people climb on the rafters and
Right.
stage dive and all this stuff," and so she's down there in this, like, really intense environment. I look down, I was like, "Mom, what are you doing?" But she just wanted to be right up front. She wanted to feel the music and get into it, and, you know, I wouldn't have, gotten where I got without her generosity, so although we never really sat down, I don't think, and sort of, had the sort of "can you believe it" conversation, it was just it was unspoken, it was just like
Yeah.
her actions spoke so clearly of her just eh delight.
Yeah. You felt it. You knew it. You felt their pride.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew it. And then with my dad, he was also very proud. Old Man on the song Back Porch on our first record is about my dad,
Mm.
about me becoming me envisioning becoming my dad,
Mhm.
which I am now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
that song has come true. I don't have a back porch. I got a side porch, but, close enough.
Yeah.
But then later when I did the Casper Babypants thing and my mom had passed away and I did a show at the Seattle Symphony with a symphony orchestra, and I did 2 different performances with that, like songs that I had written that had borrowed themes from classical music, and then I did one of Beatles songs with the symphony. And my dad came to those, and we really, okay, now I'm gonna cry,
Mhm.
really, bonded over how proud my mom would have been.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I went with my mom to the symphony. She had season tickets, and when her friend, who also had season tickets, couldn't go, I would accompany her. So I attended maybe 2 or 3, performances a year of the Seattle Symphony, and so it was like a big way we bonded when she had, a memory loss issue and she got locked in toward the end of her life. I would go visit her. I wouldn't say anything really, except I'd rub her shoulders, rub her feet, and play classical music that I knew she loved. So
Mhm.
that was our, connection. And my dad acknowledging that and telling me he was proud of me at that point that before one of those performances was really
Yeah.
like, again, my dad pops in for like a real singular
Yes.
moment,
Yes. But
right?
profound. Yes.
Well, profound, yes, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
yeah.
great that you
He
can.
grew up he grew up a sharecropper's son in
Yeah.
Missouri in the 20 and 30s, so you don't really talk about yourself
Yeah,
that
yeah. No,
much.
my dad was a farmer, so I know the type, but when you feel their pride, right? And I think that's what you're sharing. And it's great that you guys had those moments together, to recognize those things.
Yeah,
That's
very much.
wonderful. Um, so a young musician, I don't know if you talk to young musicians how often, but you know, you made it. You made it in a very competitive industry and you're still doing it. You're still, I mean, you did what you wanted to do from, I don't know, when you started playing piano at 4 years old. So most people will try and fall off or whatever. Life happens. What do you
Yeah.
say to the 23-year-old that's busking and that wants to make it in that industry, or that is a writer that wants to make it as a writer, that wants to do something creative mainly? What's your advice to them to stick it out?
Well, what I did and what my advice would be are the same, which is reimagine and resize your sphere of influence to be attainable. Meaning, when I was in Boston and playing on the street, I would write songs, I'd record them on my 4-track, I'd compile the finished recordings onto a cassette tape, I'd copy that cassette tape, make a little cover for it, put it in my bag, go down to, Harvard Square, set up, put my little cassettes out, play music, people give me money, people buy a cassette, walk away, and I go and eat dinner, and so that to me, I was done. I was that circuit that I could control was completed, and I felt like while still kind of fantasizing about getting to higher levels,
Uh-huh.
I also was preparing myself to be okay and be nourished and fulfilled by the attainable circuit that I had created by just writing songs and playing on the street.
Yeah.
So I think, and a lot of people talk about the Duplass brothers. I haven't heard this podcast, but my wife Kate listened to it and really was affected by it because they just said, you have to do it on a small scale on your own, your way, as a way to like open the door a crack or
Uh-huh.
get your foot in the proverbial door. Um, because especially these days with everything is so DIY. I mean, you know, social media and social media platforms give a platform to everybody. So it's like a different kind of bottleneck. It used to be 3 bottlenecks. Now it's 3 billion bottlenecks.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah. So they're just a lot wider.
Yeah.
It's not a bottle anymore. It's a tub.
Uh,
So, so
yeah.
yeah, do it your way on a small scale. And if you listen to the Duplass brothers, their thing was buy real estate, because if you buy real estate and flip it around, you'll make a bunch of money, which you can then spend on your,
On your
buy.
hobby.
Yeah, if you can figure out a performing asset, that's another theory. That's another financial thing that I love, which
Mm.
is create, creating something that has the ability to generate money while you're off doing something else. It's like, do you want to be the baker who gets up at 4 a.m. or do you want to be the guy that sold the baker the recipe for the bread?
Yeah. Right. Good point.
And it's hard. That's a lot to imagine, but I guess pulling back, I would just say, yes, make your circuit attainable and find joy in what you can influence.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. I think what stands out to me is just kind of this staying mindset or staying power of yours of staying curious, staying creative, and that's helped you create so many different things along the way. And look, thank you on behalf of people like me that enjoyed you as presidents, that enjoyed you, have enjoyed you as Casper Baby Pants, because it's brought a lot of joy to people, including me, and it's been fun to watch this arc along the way. And you're not done yet, so people
Oh,
can find you. Is it just under Chris Ballew on Spotify, and that where the new
yeah.
music's coming out?
Yeah, I'm on all the streamers for the new stuff and the Casper stuff
Yeah,
and the president
yeah,
stuff. But if you want to dig a little deeper, you can go to chrisballew.org, ChrisBallew.org. And there you'll find stuff that I just found on a hard drive that's just gathering dust. You'll find Feelings Hijackers. You'll find some sampledelic music I was making for a while. Ambient. I've got a ton of ambient music for meditation. All Dukes of Pop, which was my band with Dave Dieterer and
mm,
Dave Thiele before the Presidents. There's a treasure trove of nowhere else audio that you can surf around through and download for free if you
yeah.
want to own it.
Right on.
Check that out.
That's great. Well, Chris, thanks for joining me. It's been fun to kind of go back and follow this through and fill in some of the gaps. And I think, whether someone wants to be a musician or something else, these discussions are about, the kind of the highway and the points of differentiation that people have taken, and your career has taken these different turns, and here you are, and that's the great part of the story.
Yeah, it's magical, man. I think a lot of this stems from being present,
Yeah.
being present in the moment and checking in with your body. There was a period there where life was insanely magical. I had just discovered Rumi the Sufi and his poetry, and it just blew my mind. Um, so, yeah, I guess I would also leave people with the idea that, like, in any situation you're in, check in with your body. Try to think of your body as like another being, a being that you are inhabiting and manipulating, but a being that has its own agenda and messaging to share with you. So when you're in any situation, check in with your body. Do you feel good and loose and free, or do you feel constricted and upset? And then choose actions that address those feelings.
Mhm.
and somehow through that, the universe turns on, and
Mhm.
then it's just shit just happens.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a real positive energy about you, and I don't mean that your life has been perfect by any means, but it feels like you choose positive over negative when you can, if that makes sense. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think even with hard things like depression, anxiety,
Mm,
and fear of death and stuff like that, there are, opportunities for levity and for acceptance,
mhm,
you know? I've been through some dark stuff,
mhm.
but, that just makes it all the lighter, and I don't wanna get into politics here, but I will say that I think on the other side of the darkness we're experiencing is an amazing utopia
Yeah,
that is gonna be hard won, but it will be won.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good way to wrap it up. It's a good note, and, appreciate your positive energy, appreciate you taking the time, and keep doing what you're doing, because it brings a joy to a lot of people.
Thank you, and thanks for making me almost cry twice. I'm gonna go cry for real now. I
Go
think I
ahead, we'll
get
let you do it. Thanks, Chris.